Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Long Take with Katie and Jordan. Mm-hmm. This week we were talking about... God. So yeah, we talked about Back to the Future.
Okay.
We talked about some deeper themes, a lot of controversy that happened in this movie. Yeah.
Too much controversy.
Too much.
If I do say so myself.
Yeah, for just 3 movies, there's a lot of controversy.
Yeah. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LongTakePod on Twitter and at LongTake_pod on Instagram. Also on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
Leave a comment.
Leave a comment. If you're watching our faces now, hello. I did my makeup for you today.
I worked really hard on my hair too. I spent like an hour on it actually.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's about it. Enjoy this episode. Here's episode
Back to the Future.
Welcome back to the future.
Wow. I did not know where you were going with that, but that was better than I expected.
Yeah, I'm really good at dad jokes with these movies.
Last week was rough, but...
I was proud of myself. Anyway, today's episode is about Back to the Future, the whole trilogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
A highly requested episode. Everyone's been asking about this. Everyone.
Yeah.
Well, our phones have been blowing up.
Yeah, nonstop emails.
Oh my God.
Why are you emailing me?
You know who emailed me about it? The craziest shit. Seth Rogen was emailing me about it.
Yeah.
He's like, I've been listening to you guys. Can you please put that in your podcast? And I was like...
It's funny, because it's in the next schedule. It's in the next one.
I know.
Good. Cool.
I know. Well, you know, thank you. Shout out to Seth Rogen. Thank you for your email. That was really sweet.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So Back to the Future... the first one was released on July 3rd, 1985. Back to the Future 2 was November 22nd, 1989. And Back to the Future 3 was May 25th, 1990. The runtime of the first one is an hour and 56 minutes. The runtime of the second one is an hour and 48 minutes. And the third one is an hour and 58 minutes. They are all rated PG. They're all family friendly. Rotten Tomatoes. This is not even surprising in the slightest, but 96% on Rotten Tomatoes for the first one, 66% on Rotten Tomatoes for the second one, and 80% on Rotten Tomatoes for the third one.
Wow.
But this actually surprised me a little bit. 94% audience score for the first one, 85% audience score for the second one, and 78% audience score for the third one.
Really? But
I thought the audience score for the third one would be higher than the second one.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like people didn't really like the second one, but I guess they did. All of the movies were directed by Robert Zemeckis. They were both written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. The production company was Universal Pictures, and it was also produced by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
The cast is Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, Christopher Lloyd as Doc Emmett Brown, Leah Thompson as Lorraine McFly, Thomas F. Wilson as Biff Tannen, Crispin Glover as George McFly in the first one. We will talk about that. Elizabeth Shue as Jennifer in the second and third, and Claudia Wells as Jennifer in the first movie. We will also talk about that. Okay, so the budget for the first one was $19 million, and for the second and third one, they each had $40 million. So wow. They spent a lot on these movies. Opening weekend, it was $11 million for the first one, $27.8 million for the second one, and $19 million for the third one. Oh. So people didn't really go see the third one opening weekend. And this is crazy. So gross domestic, the first one made $211 million. And then the second one made $119 million. And then the third one made $88 million. Holy shit. What a drop off, right? To go from the first one, $211 million to $88 million. Yeah. That's a lot. Okay, synopsis. Marty McFly, a 17-year-old boy, along with his friend Doc Brown, travel back and forth throughout time, correcting events and altering the course of their reality forever. Wow, nice. How old is Doc Brown? He's old. Well, John Mulaney said it in his stand-up. He's either 40 or he's 80? Yeah, he's like, we don't even care. Actually, let's talk about John Mulaney's stand-up. Go for it. In John Mulaney's stand-up special, The Comeback Kid, he talks about Back to the Future and talks about how they like pitched it and how it's probably the weirdest movie ever, but people don't really think about it because it's such a like well-loved movie.
Yeah.
So a 17-year-old boy is best friends with a disgraced nuclear physicist who is possibly 80 years old. And he goes back in time to see his parents and almost hook up with his mother, and I don't know, it's a weird movie.
Yeah.
It was too incestual for Disney. They pitched it to a ton of places, and every place that they pitched it to said, this sounds like a Disney movie, take it to Disney. And they took it to Disney and they said, no, this is too much, it's incestual, it's too sexual for us. And they said no. So anyway, I've been talking a lot. What do you have for me?
A quick fun fact to start this off is that Michael J. Fox wasn't originally cast as Marty McFly. It was Eric Stoltz. Mm-hmm. About halfway through filming, they just said, this guy isn't working out, the chemistry isn't there. So and Michael J. Fox opened up. Because they did want him originally. Oh, they did?
Yeah, but he was doing Family Ties, and he was also doing Teen Wolf, or he had just finished Teen Wolf. But Family Ties was his priority, and they couldn't get him like on set to film, and they just couldn't work it out. So they just dropped that idea of him, hired Eric Stoltz, who had major issues with people on set.
Yeah.
Like Biff, Thomas... What was his name? Thomas F. Wilson. He had big problems with him. They did not get along.
Really? Damn.
Yeah, I guess there was like a scene where Marty is supposed to be like pushing Biff and like poking at him. And I guess he was like doing that super hard. And Thomas Wilson was like, please, like, you're going to hurt me. Like, stop doing that. And he kept pushing him super hard, and I guess he was like covered in bruises on his chest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they did not like each other. But
it's good that he got fired and then recasted.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie would have been, I don't think they would have done as well.
No, because Michael J. Fox was like big.
Yeah, he was popular.
He was like the big guy in TV.
Yeah.
And then this movie like brought him into film. But Teen Wolf also, it was around the same time. Teen Wolf was big
too, yeah. Just going on, you're talking about how he was also doing Family Ties at the same time. So he actually had a split schedule. So he would do Family Ties from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mm-hmm. And then he would get in a car and he would drive, I think they said it was like an hour, to the other studio. And then he would start filming the Back to the Future. And then when he was filming Back to the Future, he was doing still 7-8 hour days, so he was working into like midnight, 3-4 a.m. every single night, going to bed, getting up and doing that same thing,
and weekends.
Yeah. And then they had Saturdays because he could film during the day.
Yeah,
so a lot of the, obviously this series is like predominantly in the daytime, so a lot of weekends. So yeah, it was
how old was he?
I'm not sure how old he was.
Was he like under 18? I never looked that up.
No, he had to be older.
Yeah, because child labor laws.
He wasn't 21 though. That's one thing that I do know.
I'm gonna look that up really quick. He was 24, so there weren't really child labor laws or anything.
Yeah, so that's why he was able to just have those long hours.
Yeah.
Another.
No.
Another. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's good.
Another fun fact. I don't know if you have anything on this, but actually, Back to the Future 2 and 3 were actually filmed at the same time, or not at the same time. They were filmed back to back. So they finished 2, threw it in the edit, and then they went right on. And this was actually one of the more like bigger budget movies to do that, because like when you think of like big movies, filming back to back or overlapping, filming 2 different movies, you think of Lord of the Rings, but this was actually one of the bigger ones that did it first.
Yeah. You know what else is funny about that? I feel like we just keep bouncing off of each other and like one-upping.
Yeah. You know what else is funny?
No, Michael J. Fox, no one knew that they were going to do a second movie or a third. So Michael J. Fox didn't know that there was going to be another movie until he watched the movie at the premiere and it said to be continued.
Oh, shit.
So No one really told them that it was going to keep going.
Really?
I think they decided it in like post-production, and he was just already signed on.
No, actually, I think they knew that it was written for 2 movies. They wrote 2 scripts.
Yeah, but it never got... So that goes into the controversy about the future timeline.
Yeah.
So Universal originally didn't want to do...
They didn't want to do 3 because it was too big of a budget to do more.
No. They didn't want to do a story where they go to the future because they thought that was too risky because... You can't predict the future for real, so what would they show? And then when they get it wrong, it wouldn't live on, like it wouldn't stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So they had an idea for the second movie as it is, like with the future concept. But Universal said, no, we're going to pick up this first one. We don't want to do the future thing. It's too risky. So they didn't do that. Originally, they weren't going to do that. But then I think it was like in post-production. It had to have been because they put to be continued.
Yeah.
So... They knew that they were going to continue on, but then it got picked up and they did it.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is when they wrote the second script, they must have had it already. Like they must have wrote it like, hey, this is 1, this is 2.
Yeah.
And they wrote like the whole Western going back to 1885 as well in the future. So it was all one big script. Oh. And then they split it in half. They said this will be too long. They can't, the budget isn't big enough. They can't do this all at once. That's why they filmed them back to back.
Yeah.
So they had that.
Very cool.
Split up.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. Eric Stoltz is super hot though. Like
I don't know who that is. Do I know who that is?
No, probably not. He became like, he did like smaller things. He never really got big, and he did some directing and stuff, but nothing too huge. But there's actually clips online of him like doing the like certain scenes.
Yeah.
And it was like a very different angle for Marty McFly. It was like he was in a leather jacket and he had darker hair and like darker features. Like it was a very different angle, which I mean, it wouldn't have done as well, I don't think.
It wasn't like Corky.
No, and he didn't have like comedic timing. He was definitely more morbid. Like he made a lot of the other cast members like very unsettled. Like they didn't, and he played the role very dark. Mm-hmm. So I think it would have been a completely different movie. Whereas like Back to the Future is one of those feel good, family movies that everyone watches.
It's an easy watch, yeah.
And I don't think that would have been that. So
yeah. So it makes sense of saying like, oh yeah, he had bad chemistry on set and all that. That makes sense.
There was also a different actress who was Jennifer, the girlfriend with Eric Stoltz, because he was like 6'4" or something. And when Michael J. Fox came in, they just recast her completely because she was too tall.
Yeah. And then after
and then
it was at the end of
Claudia Wells came in, and she didn't do the second and third movie. She actually decided not to do them because her mom was dying from cancer.
Yeah. She didn't even finish the first movie.
No.
She didn't finish the first movie, and I'll talk about it later because I have like a deep dive into like the timeline into like what the story actually is holding. But I'll note that later. Yeah,
so lots of Jennifers.
Yeah. Another fun fact, a cast member that got wildly overlooked is Elijah Wood. He plays Video Game Boy in Back to the Future 2.
Really?
He's in when he like pulls out when Marty's playing the video game and he's like shooting the guys or whatever, and the kid's like, "Where'd you learn that?" And he goes, 7-Eleven. And he's the one kid that asks.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And
I did not know that.
You don't know that until like you look at it and you're like, wow, that actually is him. It was his first movie.
That's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And then also, I'll just keep going off of
what a like cameo, like first movie.
Yeah. But then another interesting thing is Flea is in this. Flea, the bass player from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, plays Needles.
Really?
Yeah. He was always like into acting before, like he was in Boy Erased and stuff, and like he does some other like really obscure movies, but he plays Needles. I don't know what his full name is.
Yeah.
So they just call him, it's like Douglas or something. But yeah, he does it in all 3 movies. He's Needles.
Wow.
And he's super young. Like, I mean, he's in his 50s now, but like in like 1985, this is before Chili Peppers were even popular.
Yeah.
They didn't get popular till like 89. So
Wow. Maybe
Fun
they
fact.
can credit their success to him being in Back to the
They could.
Future. People were like, "That's that guy from Back to the Future."
That's Needles.
Very cool. Another cast member who has beef with Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
So we're
Let's
not
dive
even.
in.
I'm gonna be honest. Like this episode, we're really not even gonna talk about the movies because everyone has seen them a million
I have
times.
some stuff to talk about.
I don't have. Well, I mean, okay, but that's not like the main focus of this.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone has seen Back to the Future, and if you haven't, like, there's something wrong there.
Okay, let me correct myself. I don't have to talk about the movie. I have some theories that I have.
Oh, okay.
What's going on?
There is a bit of controversy
Okay.
with one of the actors in this movie,
Yeah.
and it's actually pretty well known. So, but I'm gonna dive a little deeper into it. So Crispin Glover. I hate his name. By the way. Crispin. Yeah.
Like a treat.
Yeah, like a Crispin. He plays George McFly in the first movie. And he did a great job. I thought he played that character so well.
Do you like him as an actor?
I like him as George McFly.
Okay.
I don't think he could really do anything else. I think he does a really good job as like the nerdy.
He's the bad guy in Charlie's Angels.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. He plays like a good creepy guy.
He talks like a dork though. Like even like
He talks
now.
creepy.
He actually
He's also in Alice in Wonderland too.
I didn't know that.
He's one of the guys. One of the villains.
One of the guys.
Just one of the guys.
But anyway, so he played George McFly in the first movie, did a great job. Apparently, Bob Gale had issues with him. He really didn't like him on set. He said he was really unprofessional and he was a goofball and like he didn't like working with him. None of the other actors or actresses or anyone in the cast has said the same. They really all had only good things to say about him. A lot of them are like friends with him still.
Yeah.
But Bob Gale made these claims that he was terrible, blah, blah, blah. He was not asked to come back for the second movie. After the first movie, they just did not ask for him back. Robert Zemeckis actually made that decision along with Bob Gale, so we're not really like a fan of either of them. But they ended up hiring an actor who really didn't resemble Crispin Glover at all, but they used the prosthetics that they made to like create makeup looks for him for the movie and everything, like the mold of his face, to create prosthetic like nose, face, inserts and stuff to make him look
When he was like looking old.
Yeah, but to make it look like Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
So this actor who didn't look like him at all, they just put stuff on his face, made him talk like him, and put him upside down for the movie.
Yeah.
Because he's basically upside down like the whole movie. He is upside down the whole movie, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, he's not once right side up. But anyway, Crispin was rightfully very upset about this. He didn't agree with the choices that actor made. He said he didn't think he was a very good actor, whatever. He filed a lawsuit against, I think, Universal and, like, personally that,
Actor?
like, crew.
Oh.
Not the actor, because it wasn't really, like, he was just trying to work, you know? But he ended up winning his lawsuit, and it changed rules in the Screen Actors Guild. So if like you use someone's likeness, you have to pay them or they have to consent to it.
Wow.
So he actually was the one who made those changes, but he still does like interviews. He's been on a couple podcasts that I listened to, and he talks about how aggravating this is because this person looks like him. They made it look like him. So everyone thinks that he's in these movies, but in actuality, he's not.
Yeah.
And he was really disappointed in the whole thing. And Bob Gale, on like the anniversary edition of the Blu-rays and like the special whatever they did for all the anniversaries, he constantly says that they had to recast him because Crispin Glover was asking for too much money. They said he was asking for like as much as Michael J. Fox was making, which is not the case. He said that he really could have asked for anything and they would have said no. So they did not want him back. Which is really sad because, like I said, I think he does a really good George McFly. Yeah. And I think when you think of Back to the Future, that's like he's one of the main things about that. Yeah. So it is really sad, and he said that it really has taken over his life in a way because people, claim that that's him, and I can understand where it would be aggravating. I wouldn't let it like destroy my whole life. Yeah. But he wanted the lawsuit to enact a change where they had to cut that character from the whole movie, where they would have to just make cuts and figure it out where George McFly couldn't be in the movie. But they didn't end up doing that. They just paid him and made changes to the whole thing. So, wow. Yeah. So some drama with Crispin.
It's a terrible name.
I know. I've never heard that name Crispin in my life.
I think I've heard that before, but Crispin? It's just a terrible, terrible name.
I guess no one will have that name. Like Crispin Glover, like you're going to know who it is. Like for actors and stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I would change my name. Well, I don't think he changed his name. Never mind. Yeah. All right. What do you got?
A kind of a weird thing that Robert Zemeckis did was he actually based Biff off of Donald Trump. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. Donald Trump was like super popular in the mid 80s, and he said he wanted to have this figure that was popular be in his movie. And he wanted to kind of grasp.
So you made him the bully?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that was the first intention, but the way that he just acted on TV and the way that he was, it just aligned up with what was popular and that fit the character.
Wow, that's embarrassing for Trump. I would never want to be Biff from this movie.
Yeah. So that's actually like a thing. He like talks about that. Wow. Robert Zemeckis when he talks about this movie. But it all makes sense. I mean, you have whatever Biff's Palace of Pleasure or some shit like that. Some weird fucking hotel that he has, casino. Yeah. So yeah, Biff is Donald Trump, and then you watch this movie, you're like, yeah,
it makes sense.
Especially when you get to when do they go? Yeah, the second one when they go in the future.
Yeah.
I was like, it's rough.
I mean, yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of gross, but it makes sense.
Another thing, we can talk about this real quick. I want to know, I'm curious to see if like the DeLorean was popular before this movie or if it was just like Back to the Future skyrocketed.
Oh, I can look that up. We could buy a 1982 DeLorean for $44,000.
That's it?
That's really not that much. I mean, like, it's not.
I saw a G-Wagon on Facebook Market today for $39,000. It's a 2002 with 100,000 miles on it. It looked really nice.
Are you looking to get a new car?
No.
May I offer you a DeLorean?
So anyway, before they decided that the DeLorean was going to be the time machine, they actually thought, or the first idea for the time machine was going to be a fridge, which is, I'm glad they changed it. I think it would have been a very dumb idea.
Okay, hear me out. What if the time machine were a hot tub?
Okay, keep talking.
Okay, so you get into a hot tub with your friends.
Okay.
And you go to
the
past.
Is it on, like, full water?
Oh, yeah. And it's bubbling.
Do you have to get, like, fully clothed?
You can be naked. And you just...
Wait, do you travel back in time naked?
Yeah, well, you can if you want. And you're just with...
Do you have to be naked?
You're with your 3 best friends. And you sit around and you can hold hands if you feel like it. I'm not going to judge.
Naked in a hot tub?
If you want to. That's like the dream. With your 3 best friends naked in the hot tub. Holding hands.
2 best friends sitting 10 feet away in a hot tub because they're not gay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they should have used a hot tub. What do you think? I mean, I
think that could work.
Maybe we should write that movie.
I feel like it's been done before.
Write it down. I'm going to write it down.
Okay. But yeah, they wanted to use a refrigerator, and then that obviously was nixed because they didn't want children to see this movie and then lock themselves in the fridge. We also needed the time machine to be mobile and it to move around. So obviously that's why they made it into a car. They chose the DeLorean for one line and one line only. And I think it's the farmer that says it. And it's in the first movie.
Yeah.
When you see you see it, whatever, he goes back in time. And the farmer looks at the DeLorean and he goes, that looks like an airplane without wings. That's the reason why they picked that. Because it kind of looks like an airplane. But when you look at it, it doesn't look like an airplane at all.
When I think it looks more like an airplane when the
doors are
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But yes, the DeLoreans did become wildly popular after.
Yeah.
But it had already been out of production for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
That model. So it was a collector's item.
Cool. I wonder how many they use. Probably like 10.
Honestly, we should just put our Venmo out there and see if people will buy us a DeLorean.
Probably.
Be kind of cool. I need a car. I could drive the DeLorean around. Yeah, very cool. What else you got for me?
I have one more fun fact. My last fun fact. Do you know what this movie was supposed to be called?
Mm-mm.
You don't know what it was supposed to be called before it was titled
Can I take a guess?
Well, hold on. It was called Back to the Future.
Okay.
And then the higher-ups in Universal were like, we're going to make it this name instead.
Okay, let me guess.
Because this is going to be better.
Let me guess. Let me guess. Two best friends driving through the city in a DeLorean.
That's what the title is going to be called?
I'm not a title person. I literally, anything I ever
That's what
write.
the title is going to be called. Two best friends driving through town?
Yeah.
Driving through the city.
In a DeLorean.
In a DeLorean.
I genuinely am not a title person.
It's weird that you just like off the top of your head, because that's what it was.
Oh my God. I would call this like time travel.
You would call it exactly what it is.
Anything I ever write, like I have an idea. Like I'll write stuff and I'll be like, this is a story from the perspective of a lonely girl. This will be called Lonely Girl. Or I'm like, I'm writing a mystery about a serial killer. This is called Serial Killer.
What kind of creative mind do you actually have that you can't title your work?
I'm not good at... I came up with a good title for my book, though. Can I plug my book really quick?
Sure. I don't give a
I'm
shit.
going to plug my book right now. I have a book out on Amazon called Dead Flowers Soaked in Citrus, and it's a poetry book, and read it if you want to be sad. You can get it right now. It's for $7.99. It's on sale always. So
where can you find that?
On Amazon.com. Dead Flowers Soaked in Citrus by Caitlin McLaughlin.
Cool. Let me finish up my fun fact.
Right, yes. Yes.
So this movie was actually called, or it was the original title is Back to the Future, and then one of the higher ups, it was the president of Universal at the time. I don't know his name. It was like something. It was like Sig something. It was weird. He wanted to call this movie Spaceman from Pluto, and everyone was like, "This is a terrible idea."
You literally just teased me for my naming abilities, and they were going to name this Spaceman from Pluto.
And it was in reference to when Michael J. Fox goes back in time for the first time. They land in the barn, and the kid is reading a comic book it's like Tales from Space, space zombies from Mars, from Pluto, or something like that.
Could you imagine, like, you know how people wear those shirts now that say Back to the Future? It says Spaceman from Pluto.
Yeah, if this movie was named Spaceman from Pluto, this movie wouldn't have been made.
No.
Like, I don't... like.
Well, it would have been made. It wouldn't have done well.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, it would have been like, yeah, $11 million.
We should call this episode Spaceman from Pluto and see if anyone clicks on it.
No.
Today we're talking about Spaceman from Pluto.
So, the reason why it wasn't called that is because luckily one of the producers named Steven Spielberg was like, hey, you should just call this by the original title. And then it went back. The reason why he didn't want to call it Back to the Future was because of the word future and how you talked about they were unsure of what the future would hold, so they didn't want to be tied down to the meaning of the future, even though because they didn't know what it was. So that's why. Even though it makes sense because the first movie they go back in time and then go back to the future. So, yep, that's my last.
We have to go back
to the future.
Did that sound like him? That kind of sounded like him.
You kind of sound like Gandalf now. That was like a
You
Gandalf.
shall not pass.
You shall go back to the future. What the fuck was that?
Back to the future.
You have to like loosen your jaw. No, like just like your skin.
Back to the future.
I don't think you're going. I put like an accent on mine.
Yeah, you did. Do it again.
All right, Gandalf, right? Reading for Doc Emmett Brown.
Gandalf, the character reading for Doc Brown.
We shall go back to the future. Why am I British now?
We shall go back to the future.
That's what you did.
Back to the future. Silly
shall
hobbits. Oh, it's funny that we talked about Gandalf and Elijah Wood's in this movie.
Oh my god.
That's why I was harnessing Gandalf. That's why you harnessed Gandalf, threw it on me.
Do a Frodo voice.
Nah.
Oh, hello, Mr. Gandalf.
What the? You sound like a Keebler elf. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
I think I actually really did sound like the first one. Play that back when you're doing this because I think I actually sounded like Doc Brown. I'm not kidding. I heard it and I was like,
shit, that's me right now.
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd's here.
He's so old. Can we talk about that for a second? This man is still alive.
This man's?
I didn't mean
Yeah,
to say.
he's still alive.
This man is still alive. He's old.
How old is he?
I know. I looked it up for sure. 82.
Oh, sorry.
How old was he? Was really not that old when he made
This is
that
30
movie.
years ago, so he was in his 50s.
Yeah.
Wow. He looked bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's kicking it. He's chilling.
It was so actually I wanted to talk about this really quick. On October 21st, 2015, because that's
The date.
the date that they go back to the future. Back to the Future. That is Back to the Future Day.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy Kimmel reunited Doc Brown and Marty McFly on his show. And if you go watch that clip because this poor old man, Christopher Lloyd is old and he's struggling to get through. And then Michael J. Fox hasn't acted in so long either. So they're they were struggling, but they have to promote the movie because they did a re-release and everything.
Yeah.
So they had to promote it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It was good. It was funny, but
Yeah.
they're old. Also, the reason that Michael J. Fox hasn't acted, I mean, not to talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, everyone knows.
Yeah.
He was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 1991. He released it as public knowledge in 1998. But didn't he have a TV show?
Yeah, he had a TV show. I mean, it had to be 10 plus years ago
It
now.
was it was bad.
I never seen it.
I didn't
Didn't
watch
it
it
include his Parkinson's in the character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch his new show, but Tom Segura does a bit on it.
Gosh.
About how just about how the whole show is him not being able to do stuff or I wish I could brush my teeth.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's funny. You should shout out Tom Segura. He also emailed us actually asking about this one. So
He
thank
said
you, Tom.
I did the bit, so you got to do it now.
Yeah, that was nice of him.
Yeah.
You want to talk music?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk music. So, Huey Lewis and the News. Very popular before this, even.
Yeah.
Hugely popular. Let's go to Ghostbusters.
Hold on. When you think of sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. When you think of Huey Lewis in the News, what do you like? What's the first thing you think of?
I think of Power of Love. The
Okay.
song Power of Love.
Do you think of American Psycho?
I think of American Psycho. The funny thing is I don't really I never really thought of Huey Lewis in the News and Back to the Future. I never really put those two together.
Yeah.
Because I do think of Huey Lewis in the News and American Psycho.
Okay, yeah.
But I think the Power of Love song is so popular. That's obviously their biggest song.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue. My bad.
Yes. So let's talk Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters, when they were making the movie, obviously there were like a ton of stuff. We'll do Ghostbusters on its own, but they wanted Huey Lewis and the News. They wanted them to make the music for it. They didn't want to do any movies, so they turned down the offer. So Ghostbusters hired Ray Parker Jr. to write a song. They had Ray Parker Jr. listen to the hit at the time, which was I Want a New Drug by Huey Lewis and the News. And he wrote the Ghostbusters song. And if you listen to the two of them, like I Want a New Drug in the Ghostbusters song.
Like the theme song for Ghostbusters?
Yes. It's like identical.
Really?
Like he copied that song. But the Ghostbusters song obviously went way more, it became way more popular. Huey Lewis and the News, they were pissed about it. So they sued Ghostbusters and Ray Parker Jr., won the lawsuit, got writing credit on that song, and then as kind of like a fuck you to Ghostbusters, they decided to make the music for Back to the Future. They were approached by Back to the Future and decided to do it for them.
Oh, cool.
And this thus became The Power of Love and Back in Time, and
it's crazy to think about how much shit happened during these like 5 years that these movies were being put out.
Okay, so like Back to the Future is kind of like, they caused a lot of problems.
Say it. It's kind of controversial.
I mean, they're kind of controversial. Like they caused a lot of issues for a lot of different people. And like, I don't know. I'm going to be honest about something. Like, I'm going to be really honest about something. I was never a huge fan of Back to the Future.
Really?
I liked it, but I liked the second one a lot. Because I used to love, like, when I was little, I was like, oh my God, the future kind of thing. But I was never, like, huge into it. Like, I know there's people who really love it. My family is, like, they're really big into it. But I was never, like, really big into it. But learning about it and, like, learning all of this stuff and, like, researching more made me like it more.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, that's good, I guess. But I feel like, interesting.
I don't know. I mean, I think they're good movies, but they're really just like, if they're on, they're on.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something... Back to the Future is not some... I don't want to say this because I feel like I'm going to go back on it eventually, but...
You go back on a lot of things.
I feel like Back to the Future is not one that I would be like, oh my God, you have to see it.
Yeah.
I think I would, just because it's like everyone's seen Back to the Future, so if you haven't, it's kind of weird if you haven't. But it wouldn't be like, oh, what? Let's watch it right now, you know? I would be like, you watch it on your own time kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so
I don't know. I think it's an important series.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I enjoy it. I like Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
I just think, like, I don't know, I watched them all in one day, and it just kind of like, there's certain points where it's like,
yeah,
all right, let's get a move on.
Yeah.
When you said that, when you were saying the times, the durations of the movies, I was expecting you to be like, yeah, it's like 2:15 and like 2:30 and like 2:20.
Yeah.
No, they feel like 3-hour movies.
Yeah. No, they definitely do. I don't know. It just feels like something that like I would put, like our family would put on at a family party, and it would just be on like quietly in the background.
We do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they're great, but I wouldn't be like, what? You haven't seen it? You know? That kind of
gotcha.
thing.
Makes sense.
What else do you got for me? I am pretty much good.
Okay, I have a rabbit hole of theory going on.
I'll bounce off whatever you throw.
Okay. So this is actually like a very, very, everyone that watches the movie kind of has the same thought process. Not everyone, but like people that read into it a little bit more. But it's that like Doc is super depressed, and then he's trying to kill himself.
Yeah.
And he's failing to do so. And then he's trying to kill himself because he's depressed, because none of his inventions are working. So he says, this is what's going to kill me, my own invention. And then it works. And then he learns to just time travel, and he just gets him further and further into deeper shit. And it goes back and forth to using Marty and using the dog, and then having to go back and save Marty because he accidentally got Marty killed.
Yeah.
And then going back and forth and saying how he's like, you're not supposed to interact. You're not supposed to do anything to mess up with the timeline. But the whole time, all 3 movies, he's doing things to mess with the timeline. And it's like, what are you doing? In one part, he actually talks to himself. And it's like, that's one thing you told Marty to not do. And then you told Jennifer to not do that as well. So there's a lot of things that are like, how did he know? How did he know to be there? It's because he's been time traveling the whole time.
Yeah. I actually do have something to bounce off of that I forgot to talk about. So Carl Sagan, he's that like physicist, whatever. He's like famous.
Sure he is.
I don't know his title. I should really look that up. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm unprepared today. An astronomer. Okay. Carl Sagan, the astronomer, he actually talks about how Back to the Future kind of got it right because, and honestly, this is kind of like an end game when they talk about this, how there are all of these realities that kind of exist at the same time. So Back to the Future doesn't really go into it like deeply where they're like giving like a science lesson or anything, but basically it's like there is this line.
Mm-hmm. He does say that.
Well, yeah, but basically...
He draws it out, so...
Okay, well, but I'm saying, in the video that Carl Sagan does...
This bitch don't rush the movies.
In the video that Carl Sagan talks about, like... Okay, I'm not even going to talk anymore. You do it.
No, you go, sorry. You said they don't talk about it, but he literally draws it out like a few times.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, there's the reality line, like, that is this reality, that is, like, definite this reality. And then if something happens within that line, a new line starts, but there's still this reality that exists.
Keeps going, yeah.
So, I mean, this also has to do with, like, how there's alternate universes, which we're not getting into that, but, like, I totally believe that, you know, and, like, alternate dimensions where, like, different things happen, you know, in your life. But basically, he said, you know, they got it right. And Endgame kind of did the same thing. They kind of talk about that same thing where she, like, makes the line and shows, like, if this goes out here, whatever.
Yeah.
So, that's it.
Okay. Just kind of dialing into certain aspects where it's like, how does Doc know where to be? How is Doc consistently saving Marty?
Yeah.
And... it's the part, it's in the beginning of the third one when he gets, like, tied up. It's Biff's, like, whatever, great-great-grandpa. What's his name? But, like, whatever. What's his name?
Buford.
It's part of the third one when Buford, like, wraps Marty's neck and he's, like, hanging him over the clock.
Yeah.
Like, right before the clock's being built. And then it's funny because, like, in the third movie, they talk about how Doc is a peaceful man and he doesn't like altercations and stuff, but then he has a gun with this like sniper rifle scope on it and like is able to like pinpoint him down immediately as soon as he starts to actually get choked. It's like, how would he know to be there? How would he know to have that type of weapon?
Yeah.
When he doesn't own guns, he doesn't get in fights, he doesn't do anything like that. There's a part when
we really don't know anything about him. Okay.
So when Biff he steals the almanac, Marty's trying to get it back on like the skateboard, and they're in the tunnel. They're thinking that in one reality, one whatever dimension, universe, whatever it is, Marty actually gets ran over because he's on a skateboard getting pushed by a car. And then in a different reality, Doc actually comes down to save him with the rope to pull him up so he actually doesn't get hit by the car. There's a part where in the second movie where he jumps off one of the hotel casino buildings and he just lands right on the DeLorean. It's like, how would you know that he's going to be there? He's not there. You don't know of his knowledge of him being there. He just jumps. Yeah. And he gets saved. So it's like Doc knew Doc was jumping time the whole time.
Yeah.
It's very, very obvious that he knew what was going on. There's no reason why he would leave Jennifer in an alleyway to not expect her to get saved later on. Like, he knew there was just more to it there.
He's just like the ultimate time traveler. Yeah. Like, he's just all over the place.
Yeah, like you said, like we really don't know much about him. And we really don't. There's so many darker themes that are going on here if you think super, super deep about it, because when he's trying to kill himself in the beginning, they don't say that, but it's pretty blatant. Even when he says, Marty, you have to stand here with me. Like, you have to do this. We have to do this together. It's like, well, if that didn't work, they would just be plowed by a car going 90 miles per hour. And they would explode. Like, that's what would happen. Their bodies would be immaculated.
Do you think that, like, maybe it's, like, his grandpa?
No.
Or, like...
I don't think they have any relation.
Oh, my God.
You want to know why you know it's not? Because you go back and you see his great-grandpa.
Oh, yeah. You know what is, like, I just thought of?
What?
What if Doc...
Is Marty?
Oh, my God.
That's not true either.
Okay, but what if he's, like... a friend of his from childhood who was like his age, but because of time travel, he like is just this old man now.
Could be. It's the same explanation of like, why doesn't Marty's parents recognize him when he's a kid? Well, you'll imagine, like, think about some kid in your class that was only there for a week.
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to remember him and his face and everything about him 25 years later. Do
you know one of the things that I forgot who it was, one of the actresses talked about when Eric Stoltz was doing a reading with them? They all were like laughing and like talking during the table read, and then Eric Stoltz like wasn't, and he's just sitting there, and they finished, and he said, "It's so sad that only Marty remembers what his family was like before all of this changed."
Oh, wow.
And it was like, and she said, I think it was Leah Thompson. I think it was her who said this in an interview. And she was like, that was the moment where we were like, this guy's morbid. Because it's supposed to be like a lighthearted movie. But then you think about it and it is like, it's very heavy.
Dark. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, there's a lot of these movies that it's very, very pretty. Yeah. But when you look at it for like more than 15 seconds, you're like, wow, this is... When he gets just shot up, he just gets blown away. Yeah. That part scared me when I was younger. Yeah. I didn't like that.
Yeah. No, it's a very, like, yeah, it is a morbid, like, ending, kind of, if you think about it.
Just overall, the overall theme of it, like, going back to, like, I think it's Clara.
Yeah, Clara.
When he saves Clara, like, how would he know? He literally saves this woman, and he's like, oh, I don't know who she is, but then he later finds out that she's, like, a poet. It's like... You knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
And then even another interesting thing of like going back and him like having so much control when he's in the bar, when they break up, when Doc and Clara break up, he's in the bar and he's like talking to that man and they're like, don't drink, don't do it. He only talks about being heartbroken for a couple minutes before he's like takes the shot and then he like passes out immediately. Yeah. And then that man gets on the train right behind Clara. And he's like, yeah, that man was so heartbroken. It like, if you think about it more and you're like, oh yeah, he's a time traveler. He can like redo certain things over and over again. He probably talked to that guy multiple times where it's like almost like a Groundhog's Day effect where it's like he's seeing that guy that's sitting next to him in the bar, seeing the same thing over and over again. So it's like embedded in his brain, like, oh, wow, that guy's been talking about that forever, but it's literally only been a few minutes. Like he was only, experiencing that conversation for a few minutes. So when he gets on the train, there's multiple times where maybe he sat over here today and maybe he didn't sit behind her. So she left. Mm-hmm. And then maybe he sat, somewhere else in a different like little cart thing. Mm-hmm. And then the one day that it all just like works out, he sits right behind her. He says it. She goes, oh yeah, I know him. Then she gets off. Like when you think about that, it's like, am I diving too deep to think about that? Am I diving too far into this like world
I don't think so.
And stuff? I think
that's what it's open for. It's open for like all of this.
It's just because the only reason why I like think like it could be going too deep is because what this movie is and like what like the genuine feeling throughout this movie. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There's just a lot of dark themes in here that you don't really recognize.
Oh, definitely.
But I don't know. That's what makes this movie good. That's what like the concept and the complexity of like this movie is really, really cool. I think that's like the biggest thing of like why it's better now, because this was done in the 80s, late 80s. And I don't know, we just really didn't get anything like this before. I mean,
time is just
travel.
so confusing. Like,
yeah.
I'm very interested in like time travel and like time and everything, but it's very confusing.
Do you think time travel is real?
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It's idiotic to not think it's real.
If you had the opportunity to time travel and you could like choose what part, like I'm saying like in your life, if you could choose what part of your life you would like go back to or like change something, where would you go?
If I could change something?
Like change, yeah.
I think I'm too young to make the decision.
Really?
I mean, right now at 25, it's hard to go back and say I would do this different. Only because
there's no like
I mean, I'm so young.
Yeah, like the actions that you've made, hasn't been a consequence yet.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like if I had to go, like if I had to try time travel right now, we kind of talked about this before, but I would want to go to my very last day that I was like going to die. Yeah. And I'd like to see who was like around and like what I'd like to see who was like around and like what the world like looked like. Yeah. Just to like have that idea of like I would just like to know that. I would like to know what the world looks like.
I think if I saw that, like good or bad, the problem would be is I would see that and then I'd start living my life a different way than how I'm living it now in order to achieve that, when in reality the way that I'm living now is how I would achieve that. Yeah. So I think I would get it all mixed up, and then in the end I don't think it would be how it would end up.
I think if you see it and you're disappointed and you're like, I need to change, that's what led you to that. But like, yeah. But at the same time,
oh my God. So like, okay, so literally like so in that reality,
and you're unhappy,
the idea that you would change has already been determined. So, oh my God, that's confusing. Yeah. That's confusing. So then it's like
literally what time travel is.
Oh yeah. So like, even if I did go and I started living my life a different way, that would still mean that it would happen because it was meant to happen.
Yeah. So like literally whatever you saw,
that's so confusing.
It really wouldn't matter. Like what you saw, you'd have to be like, hey, that's what it's going to be. I can't do anything different. Yeah. You know, that's.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think I would travel, like if not going back, like if I'm going to the future, I think I would travel to like 50 years after my death and see if something that I did was still relevant or still talked about, kind of like a legacy. Like I would want that.
50 years is a long time.
I know, but I want my legacy to live on forever.
Well, think about, I mean, I guess technology will be different. 100, you know,
that's I'll probably like be a hologram.
But like so what I was like saying is like technology will be different in the future. So like you could do something
and it'll probably live on.
Yeah, it'll live on just because technology will be different. Because I'm thinking about like things that are 50 years old now that are still remembered by, and the only thing that's 50 years old now is music.
Yeah. 50 movies.
Name a movie that's 50 years old.
Well, a lot of movies are 50 years old.
Okay, like one that's like
Godfather is like 50 years old.
Godfather was 73?
It was 72.
72, it's 49.
Okay.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. But like the first record that I think of that's like 50 years old, that turned 50 years old today, is Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. And that's like
50 years old today?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, not today, but like this year.
Oh, okay.
So like that's what like, I don't know.
Wow. If you could travel back to any time, when would you travel back to? Like you had one chance, you could only travel back to this time.
How long do I get to stay there?
A week.
A week?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Probably like I'd want to go like 1973 and 74. Before
really?
The Beatles. You get the Beatles still. You get Black Sabbath. You get Elvis. Jimi Hendrix is still alive, I think. So yeah, I think like 73, 74. The Beatles broke up in 75, so nothing after 75.
I think I'd want
to have to do a lot of traveling.
Like, do we get to pick where? Yeah, you get to pick where.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I'd pick America.
I would want to go like way farther back. I think I'd want to go to like Shakespearean times.
I want to see Jesus walking around. I want to go back and be like, then I go back to the future and I'm like, it was real. That's just crazy.
I think I'd want to go to like Shakespearean times and go like, but I wouldn't want to be like a peasant.
Okay, how much control do you have
I know,
here?
that's what I'm saying. But I guess if like recent times, I'd like to go to like probably like 79. Because I love 80s. Like I love the 80s so much. But I feel like 79 was a really good time where it was like becoming the 80s. But it was still like...
The 70s.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, and I don't know. I think that's why but I want to be in like California.
Yeah.
Or somewhere like that. Like Michigan in 79 probably wasn't.
It probably was pretty cool.
Oh my God, I'd actually get to see my parents in 79.
Yeah, they'd be young. They'd be like little kids.
They'd be 6.
We just went on a
I just think like
far left tangent.
I think our next project should be building a time machine.
I might know a guy.
I think if we put our minds to it, anything is possible. These two heads right here, anything's possible.
Time machine.
Time machine.
Time travel.
Easy. No, I'm good.
Okay.
I got nothing else.
Then that's that'll be it.
Yep.
Hopefully I didn't miss anything. I feel like it did.
Missed something in Back to the Future? Why don't we just go back to the future and we'll talk about it then?
God.
Can you sing it?
Nope.
You don't know the words?
That was weird. Can you sing it?
Yeah, I know the words. You don't know the words? The power of love is a serious thing. Make one man weep, make another man sing. Turn your heart to a little like love. More than a feeling, that's the power of love.
All right, guys, that'll be it for this week. Catch you next week. Go listen to Superbad.
Oh yeah, super bad.
Peace. That was actually funny.